All right, red versus blue, number 73. My name is Mike Stark.
And I'm Keith Curry.
Keith is about to run off to Memphis. He's going to Memphis on a trip, on a vacation.
Little vacation. We're going to go up and down the river, Memphis to New Orleans and on to Biloxi.
That's awesome. But so much has happened. We wanted to get at least one episode in before he leaves, and he's leaving tomorrow morning. So let's start with the big story, the war in Iran, or is it a war?
Well, Mike, that depends on who you ask in the administration and what time of the day you ask. It's either a war, an excursion, a military escapade. I don't know what the hell it is. But, when we last got together, we were bombing Venezuela. So another episode, another war. We're not really done in Venezuela, but we're in full engagement with Iran. And unlike the Venezuelans, these people shoot back with a lot more effectiveness. 7 dead Americans so far. The Straits of Hormuz are basically closed. It appears that 3 ships were set on fire today. Oil spiked over $100 from $65 before settling back down today at $87. I saw $6 gas today in Newport Beach. Yeah. So the effect of the war is being felt by average Americans across the country in terms of inflation, in terms of gas prices, in terms of disrupted trade. Interest rates are up. The stock market is way down. The silver bullets that were protecting Donald Trump were the fact that gas prices were down and the stock market was up. That's all been reversed by the war. He is handing the Republicans a very bad hand to play going into the midterm elections. Republicans are in disarray. And the thing about this is, unlike Venezuela, there's no clear way to end this war because Iran fights and they fight everybody. They're shooting at Oman and at Abu Dhabi and Dubai, Saudi Arabia. They even shot at Cyprus, and they'll shoot at Turkey. So they want to widen the war, and Trump has no clear means to end it, but we're in it.
Yeah, and they're even threatening to send drones to California.
Well, that's right. And, apparently, they just blew up something in Oman. It's not far-fetched for them to be able to do that. I mean, there is an alert out amongst law enforcement on the West Coast and across America to watch for this. We saw in New York 2 guys get inspired by ISIS and try and execute handmade bombs in New York City near the mayor's mansion. I would expect there's sleeper cells that have been told it's showtime across the world, and some of them are here.
So this is a complete betrayal by Trump to his base, I would think, right?
Certainly the base that was the anti-war, let's stay out of foreign entanglements. We're not neocons, part of the base, which is a substantial part of it. And you see people like Joe Rogan. The big political news of the week really is that Joe Rogan is now peeled off of Trump relative to the war. He's peeled off on several other issues. And so he's a critical component to sort of the MAGA base. And they are dissatisfied with the war action. They spend all of their lives attacking neocons as rhinos, and now they own sort of the biggest military action of the last 20 years.
Okay, another big event over the last couple of weeks was the firing of Kristi Noem. Actually, not the firing, a lateral or some sort of a move, right?
Well, she was given an alternate job as sort of the ambassador to the Americas for getting out of the way, I think was the official title. But Kristi Noem was fired. That, of course, was very good news to Hegseth and Bondi, who thought that they were going to be the first one fired. I'm not sure how the bets went on Polymarket, but Kristi was the first. She leaves a mess. The deputy secretary, who actually is a friend of mine, he was the mayor of Los Alamitos, has been nominated and has his hearings as the ambassador to El Salvador. So there's likely no leadership now at the department. It's a true mess. She was having an affair with Corey Lewandowski. She was traveling with Corey in what's called the Mile High Club, where they had a suite and a government airplane. Her real sin appeared to be spending $200 million for ads in which she was riding a horse in front of Mount Rushmore, touting the Homeland Security Department. And then when she was asked about them under oath in a congressional hearing, she did indicate that President Trump knew about the ads before they aired. And of course, when you bring Donald Trump into your own crap, you are not long for this world. And she was fired. She was fired by a phone call just as she was getting ready to get up and give a speaking engagement while on the road, which is, I think, the standard way of Trump fires people. And so she's out. She's been given some created job that apparently does not include a press secretary. So she has moved on to different things.
Now, this move, is this a way of Trump, rather than just firing her, is this a way for Trump to avoid her going out and doing scorched earth on him?
Well, if you look at the Marjorie Taylor Greene example, you know that you don't really want to let them get too far away. Lyndon Johnson had a great expression, which is, I'd rather have them in the tent pissing out than outside the tent pissing in. And I think Trump may actually begin to learn those lessons now, the longer he's in politics.
Gotcha. Let's move to Texas, where there was an election.
There was. James Tallarico won the Democratic primary, defeating Jasmine Crockett, which means the Democrats are actually playing to win in the Senate race. The Republicans have a runoff between Senator John Cronin and Ken Paxton, the Attorney General. Cronin finished marginally ahead, but Paxton, in a runoff where it's usually a more conservative base, would probably have the edge going into the runoff. Trump decided to intervene, and he's likely going to endorse Cronin, but he's not going to endorse Cronin until Cronin gives him something. And Cronin today gave him his vote on ending the filibuster so that the SAVE Act that eliminates mail-in ballots, which is how 80% of the ballots in California are cast, is eliminated. And Trump will endorse Cronin, and that may be enough to pull him over the line. Cronin is a four-term senator. He's a serious legislator. He would be a much stronger candidate against Tallarico. It's interesting to note that there were 100,000 more votes cast in the Democratic primary than in the Republican primary in Texas. So once again, we see a big enthusiasm gap between the two parties. It's a Senate seat where Tallarico is the nominee, and if Paxton is the Republican nominee, Democrats have a real chance. Other things happening there, Tony Gonzalez had to quit his race after he had an affair with a staffer who committed suicide. Dan Crenshaw, the guy with the eye patch, was defeated in his primary by a MAGA Republican, so it was a good day for the Freedom Caucus there. But what's happened is that the Republicans have moved far to the right, and after their redistricting, a lot of Republican seats were made less Republican so they could move those Republican votes to Democrat seats in an attempt to pick up 5 seats, which may backfire on them because Hispanics once again voted heavily Democratic. So look for Texas to provide a lot of drama in November.
Wow. Okay, we're going to get to the Epstein files, but we've ranked this slightly higher because it did break this week or last week. The Melania film. And you watched it, right?
I watched it, so you don't have to. It's now available on Amazon Prime. They're trying to recoup the $40 million. I doubt they're going to get to that point. It is perhaps the most exquisite demonstration of a bribe in political history, right there on the small screen for you to examine. There's an awful lot of her walking in heels down hallways in hotel back rooms. She does discuss her vision for the world and all of the good things she's doing while she's picking out china and trying on dresses. It is what it is. My wife enjoyed the movie. A lot of my Republican friends have truly enjoyed the movie. It was 2 hours of my life I'm never going to get back. But it's there for all. It's on Amazon Prime. It comes with your subscription.
Don't have to even pay that extra buck or two that you do for some of the movies.
No, it didn't have a lot of commercials either. So I think it's, quick watch.
And the thing that stays with us forever and may stay with us forever is the Epstein files. Well,
despite bombing 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 countries now, the Epstein files continue to be in the news. By the way, for those of you in the poly markets trying to fix a bet on who's next to be bombed, I'd put my money on Cuba, but that's just me. Anyway, the Epstein files, they're getting closer to Trump because what they found is that a lot of the references, the FBI reports that reference people who had filed a complaint about Donald Trump himself were not in the batch that were released. They had been known because the earlier summary documents had been released, but the actual documents themselves were withheld. They've subsequently been released. We're getting closer to Donald Trump. We're seeing that Howard Lutnick was there. After denying that he would ever see Epstein again, he obviously took his boat and stopped at Little Jeff Island and had lunch there and got caught in a lie to the press. But they're getting closer, and they're getting more specific about Trump. And what we're seeing is, even though Pam Bondi and the Justice Department said, 9 months ago, that there was no indictable offenses here, these brothers that just came back from Europe and were in the Epstein files were just convicted of sex trafficking in a courtroom, I believe, in Florida. So there, in fact, was an indictable offense. And so the Justice Department stories about the Epstein files continue to break down. The information continues to come out. there are certainly consequences around the world in Norway and in England and other countries of people who are in the files who are facing the consequences. And ultimately, it gets closer and closer to President Trump, despite his substantial efforts to divert attention elsewhere by bombing countries.
Yeah, and this idea that he was going to come out of it clean is starting to wane a little bit, which is surprising on a lot of levels, and mainly that the Democrats didn't bring this stuff up because they had the files before.
You know, the Biden Justice Department had its own priorities and its own way of doing things, and for whatever reason, they chose not to do that. And a lot of the files, frankly, were accumulated during the Trump's time in office. Okay. And nobody knows, you know, they may have been hidden in a drawer for a while during the Biden years. We never know. But it's not going away. It's going to stay around.
I think that pretty much covers us for now. We covered the main things. You can go comfortably on vacation now, Keith. You feel comfortable about leaving?
I feel comfortable. And our listeners should know, by the way, that while we're doing this, that Mike was on jury duty and I was standing in front of a city council for my 2 minutes to talk to the council on a very important issue locally. So we're out there engaged in government, both of us doing our part for democracy, and we want you to as well.
Thank you so much for pointing that out. We do our civic duties. We don't just get on this podcast and yap, right?
Not at all. Not at all.
If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to the podcast, like our Facebook page, and most importantly, tell your friends about the show. We seem to be growing. Again, we're a show that wasn't supposed to last this long, but we're going to continue and probably at least until the midterm elections at this point. Wouldn't you think?
I think so. They're going to be exciting.
Absolutely.
Probably not for the Republicans, but they're going to be exciting.
Well, we'll be here to cover it. Thanks for joining us. Have a great trip, Keith. And thank you for joining us on another edition of Red versus Blue.
Thanks, everybody. Be safe.